That is what we're doing, and that's what we're talking about. That's what's good. It's what my face looks like, and this is my hair, which has been cut recently. Hello, I thought I'd drop a little video. I haven't been to the record shops for a little while, although I did pop into HMV about a week ago. But I find that HMV isn't really what it was before COVID. They always had like a massive bargain bin. So they would have like 2 crates to look through, and they would have classic albums on like 180 gram reissue for like £9 and £10. My brother got a classic jazz album for like £7, and it was great. It was like going to like a really old record shop and getting some really good deals. But I think that they must have lost a lot of money because, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily how it works, but ever since 2020, I just haven't seen anything like that. It's like every record in there is like 25 quid, and it's a little bit steep for me, you know. And I don't know what it is, but it's like Beatles albums are always like absurdly expensive. Even like a single album will be like 35 quid. So I didn't get anything out of HMV, but I have purchased a few really nice titles online, and I'm hoping that I'll get out to the record shops maybe end of July, maybe August, hopefully. I went and got myself quite a nice copy of The Second Law by Muse. This is actually it's the same artwork concept, but this isn't the exact image that I'm used to on the CD and the digital version. It was this, but slightly different. So Muse are by far one of the best bands of the last 25 years in terms of how well they work together, and such a powerful incredible sound comes out of just 3 people. And of course, you know, their music's very hit and miss with a lot of people. A lot of people gravitate towards their 2000s stuff, and then sort of you get into the 2010s and it becomes very hit and miss, and a lot of people sort of didn't follow them much past the album before this one. But they just had a certain way. I guess a lot of people always compared them to Radiohead, but I think that they very much had their own kind of identity with songwriting, with all the different classical influences that are very prevalent. So Muse were a massive band for me between the ages of about 9 and 14, and I listened to them so much back in the day that I don't really have any need to listen to it anymore. Like, it's one of those things that I have great appreciation for, but because I've already heard it so much in my life, there's no real need for it to be in like heavy rotation anymore, and hasn't been for a very long time. And if I want to have a kind of massive nostalgia sesh, I crack out one of their albums, and the best way to do so is probably vinyl. And this record sounds amazing. And I've already got a few of their albums, but the ones that I'd like to get in addition to this one are The Resistance and Origin of Symmetry. And I already have a few others. So The Second Law is a real mixed bag of an album for most people. I think it's mostly very good, but it's the kind of music that you could really criticise the shit out of. But at the end of the day, it's just really fun, well-written music. It doesn't necessarily take itself too seriously. It's not like trying to be cool or anything like that. It's just very, you know, some of the way that it's executed is very sort of divides people a lot, I would say. On this album in particular, there is a massive Queen influence. Whether it's the guitar work or the singer's voice, is just huge kind of Queen inspired sound. And it's just really high fidelity production, I would say. You know, everything's recorded really nicely and sounds great, and it's a really crisp, clear pressing. Most of the songs on here are just fantastic. Supremacy is such an epic opening track. Madness is a really beautiful pop song with a really big, wide chorus. Panic Station is just groovy as hell. I've always loved the track Explorers. I think that's a really lovely kind of ballady track. And Big Freeze is just so poppy. I love things that are so cheesy and poppy and almost disposable. But I love it when Muse are doing something like that. I think that the title track, The Second Law, has got a really beautiful tune behind it. The orchestral elements to it are absolutely masterful, but they put all this like electronic rubbish over the top of it that just really doesn't work very much and kind of ruins it a bit. I think the thing that really kind of brings this album down a little bit is the 2 songs that are written by the bass player, Not that they're necessarily bad songs, but they just do not fit on this album or with this band. They're just so stylistically and tonally different and out of place. They're not bad. They've got some really nice guitar work on them, but they just don't fit. And the guy's voice is just not anywhere near as unique as Matt Bellamy, the lead singer. I'm getting dirty fingers all over this. But overall, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think that I hadn't listened to this record for maybe 6-7 years, and I wasn't sure if I would still like it now, but listening all the way through it on vinyl, it's just fantastic music. It's like an old friend. It's not really in my life anymore, but I'm glad I bought it because it's just a great one to crack out and have a bit of fun and enjoy some really great nostalgic tunes. And you can tell that Muse just have loads of fun when they're in the studio. You can watch loads of videos of them recording that album in particular, and they just have loads of fun doing it. There's no samples involved to any of it, and I think not that there's anything wrong with samples. Like, all of my music is samples, but there's something really wholesome about the fact that it's all live musicians on there, and it's the band kind of producing everything themselves. Okay, this next record is actually kind of a holy grail for me. This is Murray Gold, Series 1 and 2 of Doctor Who, the soundtrack. I've wanted this for ages, but it was pressed in about 2013, and it's since, of course, become, sold out everywhere. So over the past sort of year or so, I've been looking it up on Discogs, and it's been about 150 quid. And that's not even for a new one, but I managed to find this on eBay for 40 quid, and it was still sealed. So I think that was a pretty decent deal, really. Especially as it's something that I really wanted, because this music's really special to me. And they've actually recently reissued this on orange vinyl, but that's actually also sold out everywhere now. But I just wanted the plain black, really. So Doctor Who was a big deal for me growing up in the 2000s, as it was for a lot of people. I had this soundtrack on CD way back in the day when I was about 8 or so, and I didn't think very much of it. I think I would have just bought it because it's got Doctor Who written on it, I don't think I really appreciated it very much then. I liked the track Doomsday, but the rest of it sort of went over my head a little bit. But it's only in the last year that I've been really listening to this and really being inspired by it. And it's not only my favourite television music ever written, but it's genuinely some of my favourite classical music ever. Some of the melodies and ideas on here are so emotive and well written. For whatever reason, it really resonates with me. There's some seriously fantastic pieces of music on here. And I think that Murray Gold's music was such a huge part of the show's identity. It would have never have been the same if it hadn't been him writing the music. Because it was so thematic. Different characters and different scenarios had their own theme, which was always so recognisable. I would absolutely love if they did a pressing of the Series 3 music for Doctor Who, because that had some fantastic music in it as well. Some really beautiful stuff. Yeah, a lot of this is just genuinely some of the most beautiful classical music I've ever heard. But yeah, over the past year, I've just been really banging this out, and it's quite a big influence on me with my music. Of course, it has an absolutely beautiful gatefold with images from the show, and that just means so much to me, to have all these photographs in there. And there's a little bit of text about each of the pieces on here, which is just so special. So yeah, this is now one of my favourite records in my whole collection. Very special. And finally, this is another holy grail for me. The legendary soundtrack to the iconic Danny Boyle film, Trainspotting. I think one of my parents had this soundtrack when I was very little, and I would just listen to it all the time. I think it got to the point where the CD had a massive crack through it, but you could still play some of the songs. I'm not sure how 70s glam rock, ambient, techno and 90s Britpop work so perfectly together on an album, but they do, and that is the identity of Trainspotting music. Even the way it's presented is just so stylish and cool. I love it. This is like one of my favourite albums of all time. Never mind it being a soundtrack, it's the whole package is just one of my all-time favourites, and to have it on vinyl is really wonderful. I don't think I even had the concept that this was a soundtrack originally. I think I probably would have, I don't know what I thought, maybe I thought it was like a band or whatever. I quite like the cover of Atomic by Sleeper on here. I think it's a bit tighter than the original, and I really love the title track by Primal Scream, which is 10 minutes and 33 seconds, but it doesn't feel it. It goes pretty fast. So yeah, I think there are a few essential tracks from the movie that weren't on here, like Temptation by Heaven 17. They did actually do a sequel to this soundtrack called Trainspotting Soundtrack 2, which basically had music from the movie that wasn't on the original soundtrack and other pieces of music that were maybe considered for the movie, and that was sort of a similar design but green. And I think if they ever did a vinyl pressing of that, I'd probably get it just as a nice sort of companion piece for this. So yeah, that was a really exciting little haul for me there. Really happy with all of these. I've listened to them all and they all sound fantastic. Thank you very much for watching.